Dr. Nemoto, may I ask the first question, a very simple one? You talked about we should strengthen the cooperation between IMF and AMRO. We know that when the last crisis hit, the global financial crisis, 2007, South Korea, which was a member of AMRO, in search for liquidity, did not use the facility of AMRO, but instead went to the Federal Reserve, to Washington. What is the main reason? Is AMRO still not providing the function that IMF is providing, or in the future, when a crisis hit in the region, how do you see the division of work between IMF and AMRO?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very good question. That the development since 2009, as I explained, is based upon our reflection of the, in a sense, our non-activation of the currency swap in 2008. I think the reason for non-activation have maybe two reasons. One is as I explained, that at that time there were 16 bilateral swaps, and you have to coordinate among 60, and the seriousness of condition is so great that Korea judged it is not appropriate to draw the regional facility. Number two is the federal swap lines. The reason Fed provided swap is because of this crisis started from the Lehman Brothers and from the U.S. market, so the liquidity was wiped out globally. So the Federal Reserve judged their role to provide the USD liquidity to foreign central banks, and the amount is great, as well as no condition attached. So in that sense, the difference between ours and this Fed swap line is are there any pre-qualification conditions or after post-conditionality? So in that sense, the regional framework and IMF framework have the same characteristics in common, that both of them have a certain conditionality, and this U.S. Fed line has a emergency provision of liquidity, considering the situation of Lehman crisis.
So, how do you see the division of role between IMF and AMRO in the future in this region when a crisis hit?
This is my personal view, and again, this doesn't represent the view of the AMRO or our authorities. My view is if something happens outside region, say Greece or Latin America, and the shock comes to region, our framework is to defend ourselves from those external shocks. But as we observed in Greece case, something happens from this region. We may have to borrow. It depends on the degree of the crisis, but we may have to draw the assistance from the global framework, because in Greece case, as I said, Europe has financial resources, or the very good bureaucrat in European Commission and EFSF and the ESM, but they have to borrow credibility from the global framework. So it's my personal view. It depends the situation, the demarcation of the job between regional and global comes from where the roots of the crisis is, either inside region or outside region, and the degree of shock.
Okay. I open the Q&A to the floor.
Thank you. Blake Berger with the Asia Competitiveness Institute. As we've seen, there's been a lack within ASEAN especially to go to a supranational organization, especially in dealing with financial crisis. And this is following from Dr. Kikuchi's comment. I was wondering, do you see any type of specific policy that can ensure confidence building measures within AMRO and within the Chiang Mai Initiative, that in case another crisis were to occur, there would be more confidence in relying on each other's partners? Because as we've seen, for example, Korea going to the IMF or ASEAN going to other international organizations for help, there has been a lack of a desire or trust in going to any kind of ASEAN organization based to deal with crises in the region. Thank you.
Any related questions?
My name is Henry Chen from SMU. I have 3 questions. The first is that the speaker talked about these co-chairmanship issues, and then because of the rotating chairmanship, you are very worried that you have these institutional memory issues. So can you expound a little bit more about these problems and your operations? Second is that in your handout, you mentioned that actually AMRO is not an international organization as of now. It is a company by guarantee. So how does it affect your operations? And the third is that the statistical problems you mentioned that many member countries now asking you. Now, I was a little bit surprised because IMF is supposed to do the statistical monitoring part through the Article 4 consultations. So is AMRO doing this Article 4 consultations? Thank you.
Yeah, the first question is very, very difficult for us to answer because we have just started our business. We are only 4 years old, and we are building our credibility. And also, I noticed that not ASEAN countries, but other East Asian countries in general are not accustomed to play with this international organization. International organization, you have to create a certain third party and have to listen. And it is the direct impact is it will take more trouble or more time to do something. But the third partyness has a certain merit. So we have to, or this region have to learn the experience of this international organization. And it is true. It is true. We have been facing a lot of problems from this viewpoint, but I think we have tried our best to get the credibility from member authorities from that viewpoint. The co-chair issue is the say like our operational guideline is like 200 pages documents, and you have to master every step. Who will call this person? Who will call this person? Our office have to make a report within certain days, or who will call the IMF? Who will call the New York Fed? So those very thick guidebook, and it is very, very burdensome for co-chairs to study to every aspect of this operation, and co-chairs have to make an initial move. So they have to master this process. So that is the reason why we need a certain institutional memory. Your second question of international organization is a very, very good one, because we are very current situation is very, very strange. We are establishing Singapore in order to create an international organization here. So the job number 1 is to make a preparation for becoming an international organization. But the authorities ask us, considering the uncertain economic and financial situation since Lehman crisis, our office should start the surveillance exercise from the 2011. So we are doing two things. And the one thing I noticed that the current stage is the shortcoming of not becoming IO is the exchange of information with the international organization. So the IMF, if we go to IMF, they say that you are a private company. So we are not allowed to give information. We can train your economists, or we can give you a certain techniques, but the information to become an international organization and come back. It is their decision. This is their decision. I'm not criticizing the IMF on this. It's clearly decided their rule. And the IMF, I'm still puzzling why some member ask us to give a technical assistance. As you know, that IMF has a 70 years history of giving technical assistance, and they are the one who have like a balance of payment manual or the rule designer. Maybe the maybe same reason as the maybe some member think it is easy for us to explain something because we are their regional partner.
So you mentioned ESM, European Stability Mechanism. You know, there is a lot of talk about optimal degree of integration in this region. And, you know, when we talk about intra-ASEAN trade or ASEAN economic community, we also talk about potential Asian currency unit. You know, how do you see in the future, given the European crisis, is there an optimal degree of integration? What would you do differently from European stability mechanism?
If we see, frankly, the degree of economic integration compared to Europe and this region, we are still between 1948 and 1958. 1948 means that they started to create this ECSC, European Committee of Steel and Coal, to have a certain joint supply of those very basic materials. And 1948 is this Treaty of Rome, which they started this European Economic Committee. So this year is the ASEAN Economic Committee year. So we are in that stage. Then we have to, this region have to liberalize the trade or labor mobility or coordinate the many regulations, and also have to allow the free movement of capital, at least inside the region. So we have a long way to go to attain. Your question is is asking me that whether we can have a certain common currency or not. We have a long way to go, but we have making a steady progress.
Okay, my question is more whether it should be the ultimate goal, or if do you think that this region is converging to that end, or can you see a different mechanism or different cooperation among countries?
I think it's a ASEAN choice. There are two models. One is this European type of economic integration. The other is the probably North American type of integration, that there's a difference of countries and difference of development. So the certain degree of freedom of movement of goods and services between countries, but basically free movement of human resources are prohibited in North America. So I think it's ASEAN choice which way is best suitable for economic integration, but certain degree of free movement of goods services in the region will enhance the overall economic efficiency. Is the very true things.
I want to know that because you are a private company in a sense, so that means that the AMRO Charter was not approved by the respective governments.
Very fortunately, the AMRO agreement treaty to make us into international organization was signed by all finance ministers October last year. So every 13 or 14 member economies are now in the process of so-called ratifying the treaty. So the reason will become an international organization in near future is after 8 economies, Parliament ratified our treaty, and 6 days, after 6 days, plus 6 days, it will become an international organization. So we are waiting for member economies Parliament to ratify our treaty. But the language is set, and all 40 members Parliament are now ratifying our treaty.
My name is Yang Rosali from the Rajaratnam School of International Studies. AMRO, as we said, is an offshoot of the Asian financial crisis in 1997. After that, we saw the emergence of CMI first, and then CMI evolved into CMIM. And then CMIM gave rise to AMRO. And now AMRO is going to be an international organization. My question is, will this eventually lead to a bigger entity such as an Asian Monetary Fund, AMF? Will that happen?
The reason I vaguely explained this pooling system at the end of my speech is now we have a regional framework is there, and now we have a regional surveillance unit, and hopefully because of this institutional memory issues will become a secretariat for ASEAN+3 activities. So the only missing part is whether we have a money at hand or we have a credit line. But I think I explained it the rather medium to long term issue is because each central banks. The question is willing to put aside certain their foreign reserve as a central pooling, or they think its current system is quick enough and stable enough. So it's their decision. It's their decision.
Why can't we have an Asian monetary fund? What will it take to have an Asian monetary fund?
Maybe the outside world have a certain stigma of this Asian monetary fund, but the main components, we break down the components. We have almost attained the same thing, but there's a certain stigma to outside people over this Asian monetary fund. Almost there.
So, once you become an international organization, do you rename? No. Okay, it's named.
It's an Asian way. Some of one U.S. professor, very famous U.S. professor, ridiculed us. The Asian countries don't have a guts to create Asian monetary fund anymore because the name of Macroeconomic Research Office means that the unwillingness of the Asian side. But I say it's Asian modesty.
I was wondering if to share a little more on how information sharing works within AMRO, regarding how macroeconomic information from each of the economies comes to you and how that is shared among the members. Is there who provides each member? Is it on a regular basis? Do the central bank governors get involved? Because I know that there could be a lot of animosity between the countries in certain aspects in terms of trade policy and that. And so, is it a free sharing information? Is that widely available? So, if someone was just say in Thailand interested on the current macroeconomic situation or housing situation in China, for example, would they be able to access that information through AMRO, or are there certain limitations to the access of information? Thank you.
We have two so-called deputies meeting, the meeting by vice ministers and deputy governors, and one minister and governors meeting. So we have 3 meetings in a year, and we'll provide regional report as well as each country's report. And I'm supposed to explain the development and risks for each member economy. That is the reason why I explained that there are a lot of constructive criticism toward my comment, but I think it's my role to become a tease. So I try to make a very frank assessment. If I can divide your question into two parts. One, we will distribute this information, share this information among Ministry of Finances and central banks. So I will share the information to authorities. So in that sense, we are accountable to authorities. But as I said, that because of the sensitivity of the issues, we are not, at least so far, not allowed to make those information or report to outside public. But since we are research office, so we are negotiating. Maybe country reports, they don't like us to make public, but we analyze certain aspects like a banking supervision or certain oil price impact or the fiscal sustainability. Those issues, I have been asking them that we would like to have a certain publication policy and to show to the outside in order to enhance our capability.
I'm curious that because the majority of the funds based on your rule is linked to IMF programs, so in the proposed article of incorporations for the international organizations, is this IMF linkage part of the article associations, or is just an executive actions that can be modified in the futures by the board of governors and the directors?
That is the most difficult to answer, because they, as I said, they keep this. The authority can release 100% of resources if there's an IMF program, but we can use only 30% without IMF program, and this portion, in my view, depends on their credibility toward our capability. So we have to work very hard so that the authority is convinced to increase this portion. But as I answered to Kikuchi-san's question, that there are certain cases that the region have to protect ourselves against the external shock. So the most difficult question I can imagine is your question. Thank you very much for asking that question.
More questions? Okay. If there is no questions, let me please join me in thanking Dr.